Everyone, welcome to an extraordinary Parish Council meeting. There won't be a public discussion at the beginning because we're only here for an hour. If there's time at the end, we will have it. Can I just sort of remind members of the public, there's not many of you, I expected a cast of thousands, that your opinions are probably very valued and are probably quite personal, but they can't be entertained in the meeting. So if anyone could refrain from shouting out, or especially abusing the chairman. Right, present, apologies for absence. Chris Roots, Tom and Janetta Sams, Stephen Morris, because he'd spend most of the time out in the corridor otherwise. And
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Any declarations of interest? Anyone need a form? Declarations of pecuniary interest? Any requests for dispensations?
No.
Right. We'll go on to number 4, awarding of the amenity contract 2016-2018. I don't wish to be pedantic, but if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple of minutes just to reread the document, which is the actual invitation to tender. What I've done is highlighted in yellow, which are relevant points, and in red, which are the most important, I believe. When we made the decision last week, I think there was a lot of reasons given as to why the contract shouldn't be awarded on the conditions by which the contract should have been awarded. So if you ever just have a quick look at that, particularly 2.5, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. The awarding of the contract should be based on the cost, which is made up of 80% of the total score, and the quality 20% of the total score. All the other things that were mentioned last week, such as contracts not being awarded to serving councillors, whether the contract was carried out correctly in the last year, that's all immaterial to this being awarded this contract. We have to go by what the terms that we've set down. And based on that, I think that HEBA should be awarded the contract based on cost of 80%. They are £4,000 cheaper than anyone else, the next highest bidder.
Can I just come in on this one, on the 80-20 rule? It was agreed by the Parish Council. All of us agreed to that.
Yeah.
What it doesn't go on to say is how that would be applied. How does 80% and 20%, how does that get divvied up for the individual tenderers? So I've applied with what I consider to be logic to this, and tried to carry on the objectivity rather than subjectivity, which I think the decision that we made at the last Wednesday was based on subjectivity, not objectivity. So going back to objectivity, HEBA were the cheapest, 80 points. Landscape services were second cheapest. How many points do we give them? Well, I think it's a function of, if you look at the prices that came in for HEBA and for landscape services, we can go on and do JB if you like, but I think they're out of the picture. I think we can agree that. If we look at what we should award landscape services, if we award 80 to Heber, then I think it's a function of 15.8 because their total cost is 15.755. Decimal points won't make much difference. Over 19.8, which is what 19,800, which is what landscape services came over to. So if that's a reasonable way of saying how many points should they get, then that comes out at 64 points. So Heber would get 80, landscape services would get 64. I haven't got a mathematical way of working out what technical merit should come up with. But what I would say is that if we look at it on a financial thing, then landscape services have got to be 17 points in front of Heber to make up the difference and to win on the 80-20 rule. If you follow that, thank you. But what I'm trying to do is put objectivity into it rather than subjectivity. And so how landscape services can get 17 points and Heber get nil, or landscape services, if we say, okay, they are probably, we don't know, better, we give them 20 points, then we've got to give Heber below 2, we've got to give Heber 2 or below, and I can't see any way that we could do that mathematically. So to me, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. And while I'm talking, I'll carry on the other bits. There's nothing in the standing orders, there's nothing in anything that I can read that prevents a parish councillor benefiting from contracts or work done, provided what is being done is transparent. And we've got all the standing orders, and we've read it out tonight. Is there anything that you want to declare, any pecuniary interests? If there are, they go out, and they don't get involved in the discussions or the vote. And this council has got history. Heber have had the contract for 12 years. So it's been allowed by this parish council. There's nothing in the parish council minutes, I would guess, that says that no councillor can profit from his position on the parish council. There's nothing that says that. There's nothing in standing orders. There's nothing in codes of conduct that I can read. And then we've got the play scheme issue, where I don't think Tom or Janetta have benefited from that.
Well, I don't think you're not comparing like with like now.
Well, I think I am. It's a
Well,
principle.
you're not.
It's an absolute principle.
One is a cost and one is an income. And Tom and Janetta bring a lot of money into the council one way and another.
But that's
And
it's the same.
very well.
But it doesn't matter in this part of this valuation of this contract, part of our tender. And remember, this was revision 12. I started this, and the actual one that went out, that got sent out to the tenderers, was Rev 12. So it went out very early days, and Amanda and Colin came back with quite a few changes to be made, which I was grateful for. They looked through it, picked up a few areas, and anything else that anyone else did. So that's why we eventually ended up with Rev 12. And then it was sent out, obviously, to the Environmental Committee. We looked at it, and then we put it out to the council, as the rest of the council, as a draft to make sure before it was sent out officially, any amendments could be made. We then had a vote that it was good enough to go out to tender, and there it did. And 3 companies submitted tenders, and we have to make the evaluation on the criteria laid down in that tender.
Well,
We
there's
can't
also
change it.
a paragraph here that says the council shall be under no obligation to award a contract set out in the invitation to any tender at all. So we don't have to give it to anybody if we don't want to.
Well, that's quite correct. But we have to bear in
We've
mind
got to
that the
follow, we've got to follow logic. And we've got to follow
Yes, I
what the
agree.
parish council
I agree, but everyone's picking out
on the
paragraphs,
basis.
so I've just picked them
Okay.
out.
But remember that the contract's now expired, so
Yeah.
we've got no one looking after the amenities from the first
But
of
you're
April.
right, there is nothing in our standing orders or anything that prevents a councillor from tendering for business.
No.
But on another occasion, the monitoring officer was phoned to ask about something a few months ago. And the monitoring officer said, I'm sick and tired of councillors asking if it's legal. The question they should ask me is it right? And if it doesn't look right, then it probably isn't. And I just don't think that everybody had the same level playing field. HEBA knew historically what they've been charging. They know the areas that they haven't performed well, and there
No,
are
not according to HEBA, they don't.
no, not according to them, but I've got copies of complaints here going back to 2011, all about the same.
But again, that isn't part of the criteria.
Well, it is the technical quality.
Yeah, but-
Technical quality, but I've already said that in my opinion, technical quality, you can't say that landscape services, who we don't know, are 18 points better
No.
than HEBA. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
Oh,
And just going back to this thing, Glenda, about whether they should be awarded or not, was that discussed in the amenities thing? Was it suggested in the amenities committee that HEBA shouldn't be given the opportunity because that they would profit from it?
well,
No.
No.
but my stance has been the same all along.
Well, yours personally may have been,
Well,
but
I've got an opinion.
yeah, but did you vote against
Yes.
HEBA being
Yes.
given the
Yes.
opportunity to
Yes.
bid?
Not to bid, no.
You should have done, shouldn't you? Because it's put us all in an embarrassing position.
We needed 3 competitive quotes. We started out with 6.
Yeah, but we shouldn't, if that's the case, it's, as far as I was concerned at the time when I asked, I asked companies, probably 3 out of the 6, and 3 applied to us because they'd heard that we were tendering. And as far as I was concerned at the time, HEBA were doing a good job, and I went into writing saying that. And how many discussions do we have at environmental committee meetings, and it was never discussed once, their poor performance. And we've got to be very careful from a legal point of view if we accuse companies of not performing when we can't. They've responded by saying, we haven't had one email in the last 12 months.
Well, they had one just almost 3 weeks ago from me.
Okay, I think this is when this was all
No, it was
happening.
before we opened the contract. And I still have not had a reply.
Right, okay. That's one issue then.
Well,
You
it's
haven't-
not, because that's a reoccurring theme in here as well.
What is that, then?
These are complaints.
That
Some of
were
them come
given
back.
to HEBA?
Yeah.
They were all sent to HEBA.
Well, I can only speak for what I've got in here, and this is going back Janet Bilk, Dennis Clifton. You know, we've only been dealing with this since last June, May. Where it's in minutes about the stream and about the Pilgrim's Way.
But
But
were
let's
they informed, and did
I can only
did
assume
they
that
act?
they were. I've got a letter here.
So we can assume they were, and we can assume that they put right what the complaints
Well, I
were.
don't know about
Well,
what.
that, see, if we complain to someone and we don't police it,
I'm sorry?
Then it can't be used, because if you say I've got complaints here,
Well,
but
just
I don't know if
let
they
me find
reacted
them,
to it.
Gary. And I'll read one out for you. This is on the 28th of October, 2014, this one happens to be, from the Parish Council to HEBA. I refer to my email sent on the 6th of October regarding hedges which require work to be completed along the A20. It's been noted to date there's been no response, and the Environmental Committee would be grateful if you could update them when they were last.
but do we follow that up? See, if we haven't followed that up, they may have done it and not told us, or we've lost the documentation.
And here we go, on the 12th of November, dear Derek, I'm just emailing to check whether you received my email dated the 6th of October.
But remember, C1.3, we'll have an amenities manager in place to police these things going forward. Whoever was going to win the tender, we didn't know at the time, we were going to have an amenities manager that would police this. And we did it by the payment, instead of being monthly, will be quarterly, and they can't apply for a payment until it's been signed off by the amenities manager. So
do you not think it's odd that two tenderers, the two outside companies, were very close together, very close in price? And do you not think that was abnormally low? The other one, the third one?
Not really, it's like any tender. It's we don't know the overheads of a larger company, the 21 JD contractors, that their overheads are more expensive, and that's why they're more expensive to do the project, to do the work.
I don't think any of us have got the ability to say whether it's high or low anyway.
Well,
I don't think we have. We can't judge it. What I would prefer to do is to go into HEBA and say, why are you asking for a 35% increase?
and what's
They were £10,000 the last contract.
Yeah, there's 3 years.
10,000. They're going 13,300 now. I'm taking out the Woodlands Walk bit because that's a different part of the contract. So they've got they've increased by 35%. So
That's a fixed contract, and for 3 years they've had that. So that's,
yeah, but inflation, wage inflation hasn't been 35% over the last 3 years, has it? If you take a cumulative figure, so that's what I prefer to be talking about than talking about how to justify a £4,000 premium over HEBA and a £7,000 increase over previous years.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing that it really does concern me actually with regard to what we're talking about now. And there was a meeting which obviously took place with the people that know a lot better than I do, which was the committee that I think you guys sit on.
yeah.
I'm not on the meeting.
Oh, you're not. Mike's on that committee as well. And made a recommendation, which wasn't unanimous, massive 2-1. But we were also asked to vote on something at this particular meeting, in which I did. I gave my reasons at a particular time. And it almost appears that vote was rejected because of your comments, and I don't know what the other comments were. I mean, you've got every right to those comments as well. But the fact that we're actually kind of sitting here tonight, there is a more general question I would like to ask, is if we do vote again against something, are we going to end up sitting around here on a Friday night again discussing it? Why have we done it in a certain way? Maybe there's a reason.
Well, that's my fault, and I take blame for that last Wednesday, because the criteria was quite clear, and it shouldn't have been voted on as the way it was. At the time, when people were bringing their reasons for not voting, I should have argued against it and said that is irrelevant. The point you made is relevant to you, but not to the awarding of the criteria of this contract. So that's my fault, and I apologise for that.
I was just interested to know, how often do these?
Well, I don't think it's
quite unusual.
Oh, yeah, I think so. But let's not forget that the chairman has received 2 communications questioning the decision.
Yes.
With very, very good reasons for questioning the decision, and he's in the position where he doesn't agree with the decision, but in his position he's got to respond to it. And I think that's a very unfair position to put him in. You know, in my little thing there, I did say I thought both of the communications that were received were right and proper.
Well, I'd already made the decision, a stranger had actually made the decision. That night, I mean, I've got to say, I never slept that night because I knew the decision was wrong. And so I actually sent an email out that first Friday morning, following the meeting, or Thursday morning, immediately saying that I was, the intention was to contact the company we voted for and Landscape Services to say I didn't say they've been awarded yet, I said, should you be awarded? But I was deeply unhappy with what had happened because I think it was incorrect. We did not follow the criteria we laid down. In 2 years' time, if we do this again, or 3 years, we can put other criteria in, but we can't have them now. And the criteria we have to vote on is the cost of 80% and 20% technical.
Which comes back to what I've said,
Yeah.
that Heber get 80, Landscape Services get 64. Can you please justify how we can award Landscape Services 20 and Heber 2 or less?
Sorry.
Yeah, this leads me, these comments lead me straight into being brand spanking new here, and I'm looking at things probably with a fresh set of eyes. The first problem that I have is there is no definition of the scoring method quantitatively. So whilst you can say that 80% of the total cost of the survey, the total cost of the service, 80% of the total